Welcome to the April meeting of the Committee of Adjustment. We begin this gathering by acknowledging the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. Acknowledging this reminds us that our great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendship of Indigenous people. Welcome to this hearing of the Committee of Adjustment for the City of St. Catharines. Everyone present will be given an opportunity to comment on the applications being heard. Just to introduce some city staff, Elaine Monroe, our Secretary-Treasurer, Rosa, our Planning Committee Coordinator, Dasha and Charlotte, and Evan, all from the Planning Department. Myself, I'm Dave Ringler. I'm Vice Chair of the committee, and today I'll be acting as Chair. Carrie Leask, Tom Neal, and Jamal Ledsma are the other members of the committee. Prior to the meeting, the committee members have reviewed each application, viewed each location identified in the applications, reviewed the staff report, and reviewed all written correspondence from the public. There are two major types of applications to this committee: applications for consent and severance, applications for minor variance to municipal bylaw requirements. Copies of decisions will be mailed to the applicant and to any other person who appeared before the committee or filed a written request to receive a notice of decision. Pursuant to the More Homes Built Faster Act, and in the matter of consent and variance applications, an appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal of either the decision itself or the conditions is restricted to the applicant, the minister, or a specified person or public body that has an interest in the matter. This would exclude any third-party participant. Consent decisions may be appealed within 20 days of the mailing of the decision. Minor variance decisions may be appealed within 20 days of the making of the decision. The cost of an appeal is $400. Are there any amendments or additions to the agenda?
There is one addition, staff have requested deferral for the minor variance for 27 Corbett Avenue.
Thank you. May we have a motion to approve the agenda? Jamal, thank you. Can we have a motion to adopt the minutes of the previous meeting?
We have two requests for, one is a withdrawal or adjournment regarding mine. We have two.
This was just outlining what was added to the agenda.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
And Tom motion for the agenda? Or the minutes, I should say. Does any member of this panel have a conflict of interest in any of the applications to be considered at this hearing or the previous hearing if they were not in attendance?
No.
The requests for withdrawal or adjournment or deferral. I believe the first request we have is a request for deferral for 72 Vine Street South and 15 Yale Crescent, correct? And who will be speaking to this? And could you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, Jake Spellick, U-Haul Canada.
Staff has requested deferral for up to 3 months pending receipt of updated plans and additional information. Are you in agreement with that?
No.
How would you like to proceed?
Well, the reason I'm here today is because I'd like to ask for your support in approving this and moving it forward. We've been at this for probably over 2 years now. It's a simple drive-through bay. We own two existing properties. Through legal formalities, properties are under different ownerships for tax reasons, et cetera. Both buildings say U-Haul on them. It's clearly they're both U-Haul buildings and they're both operating the same business. And we're simply trying to provide a better product for our customer and provide a drive-through load-unload option for them for either side of the building. It's a pretty simple matter. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm at a point where I'm beyond frustrated because we've been at this for 2 years now. We've been through multiple different people in the city. And every time we do something, it's based on the direction that we're being given by the city, and then we provide it, and then there's a new person who takes a file over and says, well, no, we don't want to do it that way, we want to do it this way. And we've thrown countless amount of money and time at this now, and we're gotten nowhere. Most recently, I believe it was a month ago that we came to this, and it was asked to be deferred, and we found out 2 days prior that building or engineering division had an issue with locates on the property. We had a meeting with them today and tried to push back and said, okay, enough's enough. You've asked for this 3 different ways. We've done it. We've jumped through hoops for 2 years. At some point, enough is enough. They finally called us back and said, well, we'll accept a blanket easement on the property. Well, that's what we started with a year ago. So if it wasn't good and you made us do all this work for the last year, why is it acceptable now? At some point, enough is enough. I can't keep throwing, and that now he's got to go back, pay more lawyers to draw up a blanket easement that we did a year ago, make adjustments to it, and I'm just fed up. Enough is enough. As far as I'm concerned, and I don't mean to be insulting, but this process has been incompetent, and it's basically had us jump through hoops for no particular reason for 2 years now. I've not experienced this anywhere in the country. And I'm just saying, look, it's a pretty simple building. We'll do and provide whatever you guys really want, but allow us to move forward because the permit won't be reviewed. And if I don't get this building started in the next, and we're already in mid-April, by the time we get this approved and then finalized, and then they'll start looking at permit drawings because they won't review them concurrently, which is, again, odd to me. But that as, you know, and then potentially you're going to go back and forth on those comments. We may not get this building in the ground yet another year. And construction has gone up 50 to 60% in the last 2 years. What's it going to go up next year? It's just more money and more money. And really, at the end of the day, this drive-through doesn't produce any extra revenue for U-Haul. It simply provides a better product for your community members. People that live in your community, we're trying to get them out of the rain and the snow and the cold and get them inside the building to give them a better service. That's all we're trying to do. And I understand there's processes that need to be undertaken, and I support that. At the same time, it's evident on what is being done here. It's a simple drive-through. It's 2 walls and 2 doors. That's all we're trying to do. And I'm just asking for your support. And like I said earlier, I mean, 2 years is enough.
Thank you. Dasha, I believe you're the planner on this. Could you give us?
To the chair, do you have any specific questions you'd like to ask?
I'd like your comments.
Staff is not prepared to support a recommendation for the easements at this time, as we were here a month ago and deferred it because there was not sufficient information or approvable plans in front of us. We haven't received any since that date, so the deferral would continue to stand now. We have, as the applicant mentioned, we have had discussions, and we have spoken about a path forward, particularly with a blanket easement, and that may be in the works, but we are not prepared tonight, nor do we have the plans, the approvable plans in front of us tonight to make a recommendation on making a decision on that.
We provided the blanket easement option from the beginning. You guys made us do this option, which was multiple easements across the property. We've spent, I don't know how much money doing this, and now we're gonna go back to what we could have did a year ago. And my issue is, by the time we get you that, you're gonna ask for something else, because you've done it for 2 years now.
Thank you. I believe we've heard you. Any questions from the committee?
Yes. I'm not clear, perhaps others are, so through you to planning, we're listening to an applicant that's basically saying that this has gone on for quite some time, but I'm not clear on what is missing in order to get across the finish line. We don't have a technical report at this stage tonight, so this is sort of an anomaly in my view, because traditionally what happens is on any application, we have a technical report where planning has put forth their position as to whether they're prepared to recommend or deny the application, and we as a committee obviously read that and other evidence and make a decision. We do not have that. We do not have a document where we've been able to review. So we're in sort of a no man, woman's land where we almost don't have any choice but to agree with the deferral as I see it.
Can I ask, who's responsible for providing you that documentation? Us or the city?
That comes from the planning department. So in
Matthew
other
was-
words, they're documenting their opinion based on the facts as to whether they believe this is something that they would accept or encourage a denial. And then we read this over along with all the other evidence that we are presented with. And at the end of the day, we vote as to whether we support a certain position, and then depending on that, how that vote goes, will determine future action. That's a long-winded amount of diatribe, but at the end of the day, I'm wondering if planning could shed a little more light, because it seems to me anyways, and you guys can weigh in, it seems vague to me as to what we're talking about.
If I may,
Here, let's hear from planning, if you will. Can you turn off, have you got your light?
Through the chair, essentially the information that we were lacking a month ago, which was the precise location of services on the property to inform the location of the easements that are being requested, has not been provided. And the alternate path forward, as discussed by staff or with the applicants today, of a blanket easement, we don't have the documents in order to move forward with that at this time either. I understand the applicants are stating they have submitted things in the past relating to a blanket easement. I haven't seen them. I wasn't directly involved at that time, so I don't know the steps that occurred to specifically get to today. But that path is available, and basically we need either path to be followed correctly so that we have a document in front of us that we are able to make a recommendation on.
So basically, we're talking about a reference plan.
the reference plan was provided to them. The issue is that when we created these reference plans, we were asked to narrow the scope of our reference plans from the city to strictly the easements. Then development engineering, 2 days before the committee meeting the last time I was here, had said that they did not understand and they wanted full scope of both properties of where everything goes so that they could better understand. The locates are being done as they're requested next week. Development engineering at that point also noted that they noted that the fact that why we didn't do a blanket easement. Both a blanket easement and applications have been provided since February of last year. It was in September that Elaine's predecessor asked us to divide it out, which is what we've done. Both the R plans and the easements were provided, as well as the original locates from 2018 and 2019 were all provided to the city, but they want updated information to where everything is located. However, the surveyor did provide the exact location with the R plans, and all scopes were provided in the applications. So all they're asking for, what development engineering is asking for, is to have the locates redone and make sure that they are correct to the map, which is what I was asking for in the last time I was here. Was asking for the committee's approval with the exception, with the condition that we get this understanding from development engineering. But now Development Engineering has come back today saying that they'll accept the blanket easement that we did provide, but they can't locate the applications that we provided them in both February and August. So again, we stated that we will be able to provide that, but we're asking the committee's approval if that's all that's required. The R plan doesn't change. The R plan stays the same as to where everything is. The only thing that would change is that we would take the 3 easements that are provided and combine them into one. Again, both things can be easily done. We're asking for the committee's approval tonight so that we do not have to come back and do this again.
I'm unclear as to the cast of characters here, so maybe you could help me out. Sure. You are?
I'm the Area District Vice President for U-Haul Canada. And
Okay.
Matthew he works for me, he's an owner's representative.
Okay.
John runs a local marketing company here.
Thank you. Through you to planning again. There's a request for 3 months. Is there? is
It's
there
up
a
to 3
reason- a
months, though.
practical pardon?
It's up to 3 months. They could
Yeah,
come back next.
No, I understand. Is there a practical reason why it is 3 months as opposed to 1 month, as an example?
Through the chair, the reason is simply because if we require 1 month and that information hasn't been provided, then we're back at the committee having everybody come back into the same room to push the deferral another month. With 3 months, we could do it in 1 month, but we also could do it in 1 month and 1 week, or 1.5 months, or anything like that, to giving them a little bit more flexibility.
What are the implications of approving a deferral for 1 month? I'm assuming it's the same as what happened last time. There's no cost implications in terms of that. Am I asking you?
There's no extra cost. No,
To the city or to me?
to anybody.
Okay.
Could I just ask a question of planning? The recommendation from the applicant would be to approve it subject to planning's approval of the documentation required. Can you explain what the consequences might be of that?
Well, I suppose that they haven't, it depends what you'd be approving, because with the application we have has multiple easements considered. The path forward might be a blanket easement. I'm not sure what they would be approving specifically, and I actually might direct the rest of the question to Elaine. There was some discussion with our legal staff today about that path forward and what might be missing.
So today I was talking to legal prior to the hearing, and a schedule for a gross easement, a schedule needs to be reviewed, to be submitted, explaining, breaking down the, the lands that are specific, that are going to be with the easements, the purpose, and those types of items. So you need something to approve with. So we don't have that.
But the R plan was provided, so could they not approve the R plan as it is until the verbiage of the easements is contained? The R plan,
At this
the R,
point, excuse me,
sorry,
at this point, what they're saying is the documentation is not available to them, and they're recommending that the deferral. That's where their recommendation lies.
Can I make a motion?
If
I'd
there's
like to
no,
make-
if there's no further questions, Tom or Jamal, do you have any questions?
I'd like to make a motion to defer this 1 month until May, the May meeting. Again, recognizing the fact that we are somewhat in the dark, and with any luck and good management, this gets resolved in another 30 days, whenever that date is.
Yeah, so all we have in front of us is the multiple easements that have been put forward, so we can't even make a motion on the blanket easement, because we haven't seen that. But this is the same discussion that we had last month, so what I'm a little bit unclear of is what steps actually need to happen to make sure this can happen next month, in terms of next step that the city requires for documentation? Like, is that a time frame that's reasonable? Like, I think you said locates are happening next week?
the locates are happening next week unless the development engineering wants us to change it back to the blanket easement. The discussions were today that, through the city, that they were unwilling to accept the blanket easement. As of today, they were willing to accept the blanket easement and change it, But again, it's going to be up to development engineering on their comments about what they're choosing to do going forward. All of this is hinging on development engineering holding up all of this. And I'm still unclear as to why the R plan hasn't been provided to you that should have been attached with the easement agreements.
Because they don't have it, which is my frustration. And like I said earlier, I mean, just as early as,
Excuse me, we understand where you're coming from. So
Pardon?
I would say, we understand where you're coming from.
well, can I just finish, please?
Well, if you're going to say what you've already said a couple of times,
Well, I'd like to be.
I'd like to move on.
Permission to speak, please. This is a public office. I'm a taxpayer. I'd like permission to speak.
I understand, but if you're going to say the same thing over and over again,
Well, you don't know what I'm going to say, so why are you cutting me off?
I'm asking you if that's what you're going to say.
What I'm going to say is, as early as or recent as this morning, a member of your city staff hung up on us during a Teams call because he couldn't answer the question. That's the level of professionalism I'm dealing with.
I think you need to understand the realm in which you're operating, and that is, you're operating at the Committee of Adjustment. That's period. We are volunteers that are adjudicating a file application as we speak. We've been brutally honest with what we believe, based on this vote, we can do or not do. We aren't involved in all the minutia of the file that percolates to the committee meeting itself. We just aren't. We're hearing he said, she said, but the bottom line is we don't have the knowledge. All we know is there's been a request, period. We can rehash this all day long, but there's other people that are that have applications after you. And we understand the frustrations that exist from time to time. Our job is very simple. Just, we are a committee. We don't represent City Hall. So I get how people have a propensity to want to blow off steam and so on. This is not the forum to do that. So please, we've got a motion on the table. So I would
Yeah, I was just gonna
suggest that
say-
that's the next order of business.
Yep,
Great, thank you.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so I just don't want to.
So you have the deferral for 1 month.
Okay.
Do all you can to get your end taken care of.
Okay, perfect.
Could you turn off the mic? Thank you. Next, we have a request for deferral for 27 Corbett Avenue. Is there anybody present for 27 Corbett Avenue? Could you come forward, please? You're the applicant? You're James Lott, I assume? And staff has requested deferral to the next hearing to allow updates to the site plan drawing and to the application. Are you in agreement? Okay. Any questions? Could we have a motion, please?
I move that application A2124 be deferred to the next meeting.
All those in favor? Thank you. We'll see you next meeting. Next, we have a request for a change of conditions for 1826 Josephine Street. Is there anyone here for that application? Is the applicant, please come forward. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, my name is Sydney DiTomaso. I'm with a planner with Better Neighborhoods, and I am the agent on behalf of the owner of these parcels.
Thank you. There's a request to...
good evening.
Sorry?
Yes.
There's a request to add the identified building permit conditions for the demolition of the existing single-family dwelling and the existing detached garage for each of the identified consents. Are you in agreement with this?
I'd like to speak first. I'm not sure if Ernie will as well. This is a unique situation. There's tenants currently living at 26 Josephine Street. They're old folks, and the owner, Ernie Reimer, he wants to keep them there as long as possible, and his plan is really to phase the development and start with the detached lot that is, it's about 90 feet away from the existing house. This seems to be a very technical thing. You know, if the lots are created, technically the existing house doesn't comply with zoning and the building code, but at the end of the day, the house is coming down. It has to in order to complete this project. You know, Ernie just wants to be sensitive to the folks that are living there right now. So I'm sure the owner would be open to, you know, perhaps signing an affidavit saying that the house will be demolished at a certain point in the phased construction. But we're really trying to just take a logical approach to this and build it in a logical way that keeps the folks there as long as possible. That's really all we're asking.
Did I have any comments from planning?
If I could add to that just for a second, the couple have, this has been their home for 32 years. They're tenants, they just rent. And they have noticed we will be knocking the property down in the middle of August. We have told them that they need to be out by middle of August. So they are notified that they know that they have to move. It's been very difficult for them to find they're on a little bit handicapped on a limited budget, so they've been trying to find a home. That's why I've been trying to keep them there that much longer, but, and their rent is very, very small. So we've been trying to accommodate them, but where I would like to do is move forward, if I could, with the first property. And by the time the first property is probably even framed, we would knock the other property down. When we understand the fact that construction and we can't overlap lots, that wasn't the issue. But the issue all along was I would like to get started with the first one.
And just to add to that, most of the conditions have been cleared. We're really just waiting for a parkland dedication letter from the realty department. And then Ernie's lawyer is just finishing up the paperwork. So we expect that pretty shortly. And then Ernie would like to get started.
Sort of changed my question to you. If we put this on, they have a year to make all things happen, or does it have to come down immediately? For example, if this were added, they could start construction on one lot, or does the house have to come down before they can start construction?
If these conditions are added, the timeline to fulfill all the conditions would remain the same, and it would be September 21st of this year. The challenge is that these consents, they ultimately result in, I believe it's 6 lots. They really all need to happen together. They are designed in such a way that there are easements across adjacent lots in favor of other adjacent lots in terms of servicing, parking access. So it's sort of a domino effect. To create one, you really need to create them all. And the existing house exists in a place that it would be out of compliance with the zoning bylaw and may impact a lot line that would fall through the building or near the building. And these 2 conditions were missed by the building staff when this originally came through consent. They were omitted in error, which is why they're coming forward now to ensure this does happen before these lots actually all are created, despite this existing house, which would cause some problems.
through you to planning. So the reason why this wasn't included in the first place was it was merely overlooked. And I'm trying to connect the dots with respect to these two changes. So essentially, these two, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, these were missed, as you said. The implications moving from that point forward, if we were to approve the addition of these two conditions, could you walk that out for us as to what would happen timing-wise? Because I'm having a difficult time dovetailing the dialogue from the applicant and what you're saying. Thank you in advance.
Through the chair, it would require them to complete these two conditions by September 21st in order to allow the consents to be completed as previously approved, which would mean that the demolition permits would have to be issued by that date. So that would be the timeline. I understand there are tenants in the house. It would mean that they would have to leave the home by that date at the absolute latest, before that date really, to ensure that these conditions are cleared.
So if I may just try here. So if they want to have people continuing to living in the home till mid-August, with these conditions on, basically, if the host were to come down the next day, they have met the consent and they could begin construction immediately, correct?
That's correct. They just wouldn't have all the lots created prior to the tenants leaving, which I believe they're hoping to do to begin construction prior to that, correct? Yeah.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, is it a building permit that's required or a demolition permit? Or is one implied with the other?
Through the chair, it's a permit from the building department to demolish. So it's a demolition permit, but I believe it was worded in a way where it does say building permit to demolish, but it is demolition.
Any other questions? Could I have a motion then, please?
You want a motion? I move that we include the two conditions as written in the agenda, as we consider them to be minor. And I believe that's all I need to say. Is that correct?
That's correct.
We don't have to make reference to recirculate. No need to recirculate.
There's no need to recirculate if you consider a minor change of conditions. Yeah.
All those in favor? The conditions have been added to your consents.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll now begin reviewing the applications for this evening. The first being 3 Monarch Park Drive. If the applicant could come forward, or the agent. The request here is in order to construct a proposed addition to the rear of the dwelling. The applicant is requesting a reduction in the rear yard setback from 7.5 meters to 5.0 meters, bordering on the back on 460 Niagara Street. The owners are Blair and Patrick Rigonelli, and the planner is Dasha. And I assume you're Patrick. I anticipate that you've reviewed the technical report and aware that staff recommendation is to approve your requested variance. Is there anything you wish to add? Any questions? Please. Is there anybody in the gallery who wishes to speak to this file? There were no written comments.
We're good to go. If all consideration, all written and all representation, I move that variance application A-1824 be approved as presented in a notice of hearing. As the variances are minor in nature, appropriate and desirable for the land, the use of the land, and are in keeping with the general intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw.
All those in favor? Your application's approved. Next application is for A2124 for 22A Corbett Avenue. The request, the applicant is requesting a reduction in the minimum required parking spaces from 1 to 0 in order to operate a proposed bed and breakfast. The owners are Christine and Greg Howlett, and the planner is Madeline, who's going to be represented by Charlotte. Yeah, thanks. I assume you're Greg?
Yes, Sam.
The staff has recommended an approval to approve your requested variance. Is there anything you wish to add?
Just thanks for the guidance and help through the process, and thanks for the recommendation.
Any questions? Could I have a motion?
Following consideration of all written and oral presentations, I move that variance application A2124, as presented in the notice of hearing, be approved. As the variance is minor in nature, appropriate and desirable for the use of the land, and is in keeping with the general intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw.
All those in favor? Your The next application is for 16 and 20 Great Western Road in order to allow a proposed redevelopment of the train station site. The applicant is requesting landscape buffer adjustments abutting the undeveloped land to the north, abutting the undeveloped lands to the northwest, and abutting the Great Western Road. Also looking for a reduction of the interior's yard setback for bus shelter abutting the undeveloped land, and a reduction of the rear yard setback for the bus shelter abutting the rail right-of-way. I did note from the technical report that there is a request to revise variance 4 to identify both variances 4 and 5 as interior yard setbacks, as there are no setbacks required on the rear yard. Am I correct?
It should be to withdraw variance 5 because there is,
That
Yeah.
follows.
Yeah.
But that variance 4 is also being revised, because it was only a request for 1.
sorry, give me 1 second.
In the notice of hearing. As I read it,
Well, so variance 4 was for a reduction for the setback for an accessory building to an interior lot line.
yeah, on the northwest.
North, so both bus shelters on both the north and the south side of the bus loop abut interior side lot lines.
I understand.
Okay.
But as I read it, it's a change in what the notice of hearing said. So in my reading, what's really happened is variance 5 has been changed from a rear yard setback to an interior yard setback,
Oh, okay.
correct?
Yes.
So Elaine, what I need to know is, do we have to make notice in our motion that the notice of hearing is being revised slightly over a technicality as much as anything?
It's my understanding, and the planner can confirm, it's my understanding that that variance would be applicable to all interior variances.
That's not how it's written, though. I believe it makes reference to the,
So, notice of hearing, sorry if I may, The notice of hearing states, variance 4 is a reduction of the minimum required interior side yard setback for an accessory structure, brackets bus shelter, from 0.6 meters to 0 meters. Variance 4 doesn't mention a specific location. So withdrawing variance 5 and approving variance 4 as worded on the notice would achieve the same result.
Despite the fact that the documentation that was presented spoke otherwise.
The notice of hearing doesn't state a location?
Okay.
Yeah.
You must be Cheryl.
Good evening, Chair. Yes, Cheryl Seelig, work for Niagara Region.
Thank you. I anticipate that you've reviewed the technical report and are aware that the recommendation is to approve it. Is there anything you wish to add?
No, we concur with staff's recommendation and happy to answer any questions of the committee tonight.
Any questions?
Just one for clarification about variance 3. It was mentioned, I believe, in the technical report and in the submission about 6-meter requirement proposed 2.5 meters for a landscape buffer not along a public road. I just noticed on the drawing it says 4 meters. Is that because of the sidewalk that I saw referenced?
Through you, Chair, yes, the reduction is down to that noted, 2.5 meters because the sidewalk is not counted as landscape buffer, but the actual distance between the lot line and the curb would be more than 2.5 meters.
Question. Just out of curiosity, the access to this property from St. Paul West is no longer going to be in place after this project? It's all driven along Ridley Road, is that right?
Through the chair, so for some context, this site plan and the redevelopment of this site is part of a large project that's happening in this neighborhood. So there will be reconstruction, obviously, of the St. Paul Street Bridge, and part of that will result in reconstruction of Great Western. Great Western will be one way in off of St. Paul, and then egress from the site will occur through a new access road that you see on the north side of the site plan. So since around 2018, we've been working with Ridley College to gain a new right-of-way from Ridley Road down to the site because they own 49 Ridley Road, which is the property to the north of the train station site. So with the city and the region, we have entered into an agreement with Ridley College to obtain that access road. And that draft plan of subdivision has actually been registered and the land will be transferred to the city for a future public road. And the construction of that road will be tendered in conjunction with this site plan and the St. Paul Street Bridge reconstruction, as well as reconstruction of Ridley Road. And so the region and the city have been working together on that.
So I gather that the perennial rite of passage of young licensed drivers going over that bridge will no longer be there.
Through the chair, yes, the region has already ruined that for many future drivers with the closure of the bridge.
First it was the Meriton Skyway, and now it's this bridge.
Yes, it's unfortunate those old humpback bridges are disappearing.
Any other questions? Can I have a motion, please? Assuming that you're just observing and that you were.
It's riveting, I know.
Following consideration of all written and oral presentations, I move that variance application A2024 as presented in the notice of hearing be approved as the variances are minor in nature, appropriate and desirable for the use of the land, and are in keeping with the general intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw.
All those in favor?
Did we miss removing 5?
Removing variance 5.
Can I amend that to remove variance 5?
All those in favor? Your application's approved.
Thank you.
Business, Elaine? No?
Nope. Then the-
Date of the next meeting is Wednesday, May 15th. We have- Date of the next meeting, Wednesday, May 15th. We have a motion to adjourn.